Hi, this is John Solari from the Method Actor Speaks. And today we have a very special guest, and I'm really, for the longest time, I've had a few people from, is it politically correct to say adult film stars or porn stars? What do they say?
Adult.
Adults film stars, which sounds better to me.
Yeah.
And we have the very lovely, lovely talent, Karen Summer. Now you've been around for, that doesn't sound right, that you've been around for a while, but you're making
Well,
a
I
comeback.
have.
Nice.
I'm making a comeback. I started in the business in the summer of '82, and I worked pretty steadily for about 3 or 4 years and got quite a name for myself. And then I decided I really enjoyed it. On one of our we were doing a premiere in San Francisco, and somebody approached me about if I would be interested in doing exotic dancing and being a feature dancer. And so what I did from then, I was in the business probably for 10 or 11 years, but I ended up doing the feature dancing as well, as many of us girls did back then. And I would travel off on the road, and then I'd come back in town and I'd tell my agent, I'm back. So, you know, I'm going to be back at these dates and everything, give me something. So I actually did work, but I wasn't steady here, except for the first few years. But I just moved back to LA this year, and ran into Nina Hartley, an old friend, ran into an old friend at a convention in Las Vegas, and she kind of put the bug in my ear about I should get back in the business. Of course, it had been 30 years since Nina and I first worked together.
30 years.
It had been 30 years at that point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sit a little closer to me, so I mean, this way I get you in the frame. We're not having an affair here, folks. We're just trying to get it said right. I was doing a public access show years ago, and Nina Hartley was going to come and do the show for me. Unfortunately, I got sick, and until this day, I've been trying to get her back, and I guess, I don't know. But you said, this is about acting, and we're going to talk a little bit about acting.
Absolutely.
And I have a book here that is called Challenge to the Actor by Uta Hagen. Now, I'm a member of the Actors Student. This is one of the best books you'll ever get as an actor if you want to learn about acting. And the exercises in here are just incredible.
It's fabulous.
But I want to talk to you about something. It's funny because 30 years ago, 1977, I was on parole. I got parole for doing theater acting. And I was doing a play. I'm playing a psychiatrist. And after the show, the guy asked me if I wanted to do a porno. They call it porno.
Really?
I said, sure, why not?
Right?
And it was the Pussycat Cafe in Manhattan. It was across the street from the, very famous dance hall. I think it was 51st Street.
On 51st, Showgirls.
No.
Show World.
Well, it used to be a different name in the old days. It was a big dance hall across the street there.
Okay.
And we shot right across the street, I'll never forget. And the thing was that the girl was new, I was new. Before the camera, I tried to get friendly so we can have some sort of...
Some connection.
And she didn't want that.
Oh.
She wanted to be very professional and this and that. So I found it very difficult, performing. Mm-hmm. Now, before that, I was on work releases. This is back in the 70s when swinging was really big.
Right.
And I used to go into parties, and just out of prison, I was in Sing Sing Attica. and I just go in, and I'd party with this. It was a place called Players Retreat.
I've been there.
Me too. And
back in the 80s or
and the
early
60s,
90s?
I was in the 60s and in the 80s.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. And I would go in there and never have a problem, And anyway, I did for this.
Right.
And so when I was reading your review and a few others, I was thinking, if that would have worked out, we might have had a career together. Who knows?
Right. Who knows?
I'm thinking, I've never had, to me, I'm going to tell you something. And as an actor, I want to ask you something.
Sure.
In this book, there's, I remember the Actors Studio, which is Lee Strasberg. We're very famous for emotional memory,
Yes.
things that happen in your past. I was downstairs and I said, what can I ask this lady? And maybe, I wonder if anybody ever asked you this. What was that first experience like? Can you remember that?
On film?
Yes.
Or
first time.
just my phone. See,
Yes.
back then, it was illegal.
I know,
It
8
was
millimeters,
illegal.
yes.
Yeah, it was 8mm. It was illegal. It wasn't even. It wasn't like we felt like we were outlaws or anything, but I guess we were. And that's when it was the porn industry.
Right. It was done by the mob.
Now being legal, we are considered adult actresses or sex workers.
That doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound nice, but we get tested.
Oh, right, yeah.
We get tested by talent testing, and you can't shoot today unless you have a test and all like that. But back then, my first photo shoot, I've never had a problem. I've always been an exhibitionist.
Okay.
And what woman doesn't like to feel like the center of attention?
Right.
Right. So, I remember my first photo shoot. I believe it was with Bobby Hollander. And it was great fun. I did a few photo shoots with my girlfriend. I got in the business with a girlfriend of mine. We were approached by Jim South, World Modeling. There were only 2 modeling agencies back then. And it was modeling, and you started by nude modeling. If in fact you were comfortable doing that, and it went over well, and you got 2 or 3 shoots,
Right.
then they'd ask you if you were interested in doing the films.
Yeah.
Now the first time I ever shot on film was actually at my girlfriend's house. And that was because we told her mother, my family was in the motion picture business. And we told her mother, who was leaving, because she was a real estate agent, leaving to go to work, that we had booked her townhouse for a commercial shoot
Right.
that day, to shoot a commercial. And she was going to make some money. So her mother said, okay, you girls stay here, make sure the house gets, everything's okay with the house, and make sure nothing gets hurt, and I'm going to keep you responsible. And we were like, okay. And she leaves at like 7 in the morning, probably like on her exhaust, in rolls this production company. We shot all day long in the townhouse.
Uh-huh.
And I remember the very end of it, I was like the last scene that day.
That must have been nervous.
It was very nerve-wracking. I'm trying to think. I think it was for Swedish Erotica. And I swear, the timing, I think I was walking down the stairs as they were pulling the last cables out the front door, wiping my mouth as her mother walked in, type of thing. It felt like it was exactly that, because we heard the garage door opening. And again, it was a townhouse, so it was 3 stories. And the garage was below, and they're like, we gotta hurry the garage door in. And told her she couldn't go upstairs at first. And I walked down saying hi. And I called her mom. She was my best friend's mom. I said, hi, Mom. Literally like been wiping my face from just filming a scene. So it was very exciting. It was nerve-wracking. We were getting away with so much, not only where we were shooting, but to be able to be on film the first time. And it was exciting.
Was this in L.A. or New York?
LA.
L.A. Oh.
LA.
Did you ever work in New York shooting there?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I got sent out to New York, every 6 months or so.
Really?
And I had a blast. They treated us like, it was myself, Amber Lynn.
I remember that name.
Amber came in just a year after me. So it was myself, Amber Lynn, and for the life of me, I can't remember who the other, but we all had similar looks. We were, blue-eyed, blonde hair. Well, Amber's got green eyes, but, light eyes, blonde hair, tan little things. It was our first time in New York, and we're walking around, and New York has a different style. And they were laughing, and we're like, why is everybody laughing at us? And they had a person who like drove us to and from, kind of like a babysitter, a production guy, and drove us to and from. We stayed at the Edison, off of Times Square.
Right, yeah.
And we're walking around, and they're saying, well, it's after October, and you all have pink on. There's just this different style and fashion sense out there, and us all being Valley girls or California girls, pink and blue jeans or pastels year round isn't a big deal. And so I remember going to Bloomingdale's. We all got paid. We had a ton of money. And this guy just was following us, and we were like, oh my God, oh look at this, oh look at that, and throwing things at him. And he was walking behind us carrying all these things. And we shot there. They used to bring us out there quite often.
Edison Hotel is a big actors' hotel. Because a lot of us used to drink up at Jimmy Ray's, which was on 48th and 8th. Restaurant Row was down the block.
Right.
Joe Allen's and all
well,
that.
and then they had that neat little bar in there.
Yeah, they had a little bar.
It had a little bar in there that was like for the theater crowd after theater.
Right.
So it was really wonderful. We'd get the opportunity to shoot all day and play and run around. Then they had a limo driver for us after our shoot was done who would take us to all these clubs and downtown and.
Well, yeah, down the Village and all over the after hour.
I have no idea where I was.
But there was a lot. Well, it was run by the mob, so I mean, they treated you really well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were treated like little dolls.
Right, like they,
like little baby dolls. They took us. They catered to us. They pampered us. We always had somebody who would drive us around and follow us, and just New York was like this big,
I don't know
huge,
what kind of money you
place.
made then. When I did that, they offered me, I know the men got nothing really, $50 they offered me. The women were getting, like $1,500, I think, at that time.
It depended on how much you were doing, how many scenes you were doing, how many people you were working with, things
The women
like
always
that.
made the money. Men,
Of course.
Men never made.
Well,
and it's harder for the men. The men has to do the work.
I agree. I agree 100%. I've had an experience just.
It's the opposite of society where women are always complaining. Men make more money.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
In the porn world, the women make all the money.
I had an experience just recently. One of the first things I did was shoot something with All Over 30. Since I've been back, it's not out yet. It's coming out in September.
What is it entitled again?
It's a website.
Oh,
and
website.
It's called
Okay.
All Over 30. And you shoot for the whole day, different outfits, and it's like a clips for sale type thing, but it's called All Over 30. And I did a scene, I had to do 2 scenes with one gentleman.
Right.
And they're asking me, well, what's best for you, for the cum shot, on the face, on your bust, and I'm looking at them like, and I look at this actor and I tell him, I said, whatever's best for you.
That's nice of you.
Well, my God, the poor thing had to work with me. Then we had to wait 2 hours until he was able to perform again. And you know what I'm saying? Because they shot, they shot a couple of videos just of me during the day, and then a dozen different outfits. So they have this whole montage of things. I guess the way it works, and I'm really not familiar, is they'll start with a Karen Summer, a few different things, a masturbation and photo shoots of me, and then I understand that each couple of weeks they add more. So we did all the shooting in one day.
Right.
And he didn't show up until 7 o'clock that night. And so by that time, we had fun, and he was really nice, and that's the difference for me. It's not about a personal or physical attraction. It's about if the guy is easygoing and if he's nice. But I realize, and I think a lot of us girls did from the back in the day that it truly is harder, for lack of a better term, on the gentleman. He actually has to perform physically.
Yeah.
You know, for
and
us,
control it too, right?
Yes, and it's the control, and that's from my understanding, having no experience.
No
there.
pun intended, but it is a hard job.
It is. That's what I'm saying. You know, for lack of a better term, they work harder with it. It's got to be difficult. I worked the other day for Devil Films. I worked with a wonderful actor named Jay Crew. We filmed a scene. I understand that's coming out in September as well. And we were filming the scene, and now it's very different. Back in the day, with the 8mm, and then they switched to the VHS while I was doing it. Still, you know, they would move the lighting, and they'd have to move the cameras, and you'd have your key light, and you know what I'm saying. But today, with video and things like YouTube.
Digital now, I mean.
Everything's digital, and they just start shooting.
Right. Yeah.
And you just go. And there were a few times with this gentleman that I worked with the other day where he would back off for a second, you know? And I know, and of course they're able to edit, but it was just a different experience than it was back in the day.
Well, yeah, well, today it's more streamlined, it's more business. It was guerrilla shooting back in the day, what I'm talking about too, and you're talking about. And there wasn't the protection, but we didn't have AIDS then either.
By the time I was leaving the business, John Holmes had died. I was on the road featuring, gosh, I don't even remember where I was, and I used to do burlesque as well. While I danced, I'm very big fan of burlesque, and have all intentions of hitting the burlesque stage again.
Well, like there's a place on Monday nights on Vine Street in Santa Monica. I'll hook you up. She does it. I'll hook you up with her. I apologize that I forgot your name, Lily's. But I mean, they do it every Monday night. They have burlesque there.
I would love.
You would love her. She's very old school.
I'll
hook you up with her.
I would like that very much. I had old, beautiful, if you know anything about burlesque, I had
I love it,
Sally Rand fans. Sure. I had Hetty Joe gowns. I just had these beautiful costuming because I loved the burlesque. And of course I traveled all over the country doing that as well. And so I had different shows, but for me it was always about performing. It wasn't just I'm up here to take my clothes off. I had themes and costuming to go around it. And I had a 007, and I had a Conan, and I had a cowboy, and I had a couple hard rock sets, and I had a nurse, and I had a little girl set, and gosh, and a ton of burlesque.
I was going to say the Catholic schoolgirl. That's for the films.
No,
the place is called Three Clubs. It's on Santa Monica. It's right on Vine Street.
I have to remember that. You should write that down.
I'll Facebook you the owners, and you can.
I'd like that very much. I have all intentions of once in a while hitting. Now, of course, I don't have all my costuming anymore, but that can always be created.
Now, I want to get into more about the acting. Do they, when you used to watch the porns, I mean, their films, you see a lot of it now on television now, cable.
Right.
The soap porn, I guess.
It's erotica.
Erotica, what they call it.
Erotica.
Now, the acting, I taught acting, I still do, but to me, I used to tell people, porn stars make the best actors, could be the best actors. Because when I teach, I don't know if you're familiar with David Mamet, but a lot of his plays are very vulgar and out there, and then you as an actor have to be willing to go there. It's like when I watch a scene, and I give you just a quick interest. I'm watching a scene, and it's a husband and wife, and they're talking, and he turns around, he pats her ass.
Okay.
And there's no reaction.
None?
None, I mean, she's just goes on. And I'm thinking now, in real life, there would be a reaction.
Absolutely.
But what comes over most actresses, out there, they're afraid to respond. It's not in the script.
Oh, no.
But I know that I keep using the adult actors.
It's okay.
They are willing to go there, to get naked in the mind and the head. So they're already there. So when something like that would happen, if they could act, know how to act, that emotional memory that I'm talking about here, and respond to that and do the opposite of what is expected. Learn how to, if they can learn, because today the crossover is so great, and you could be working all the time. And like you said, you worked. What was it? At Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah. Well, I did production and I was PA on Dukes of Hazzard for 3 years.
But now you could be in front of the camera because
I love that.
There's so many shows now where they want. There's a woman that I know right now, and she's always on Facebook and everywhere, every show. Almost very sexy, very sexy.
Oh.
But yet she won't do it on camera. She won't get nude on camera. And I'm saying, why? This is, it's that. When I teach actors, the first thing I do with them is get them in bed. The scene that they got to go to bed with, so that they can open up and be there. And adult actresses, you take something like yourself or Nina Hartley or someone like that, who've been there, were willing to go there. I mean, they could be great actors if they just take the time, come and study, and all these up and coming ones, because you got lines, and the crossover could be there if they would just be willing to learn.
I love it. There's nothing. I never wanted to be, a lot of little girls growing up in LA always wanted to be in front of the camera. I early on never really wanted to be in front of the camera. Of course, I was an extra.
Okay.
And like I said, I was an extra on tons of things. I was a photo double. I even on Dukes because
you were a knockout in your youth. I can see that.
Thank you very much.
And if you could have just had
if
some
I
training.
had stayed or exactly been trained, it started to really look interesting. Dukes got canceled. They had that last year with the other two actors, not John and Tom. And so we knew that last season. And that was the time that they asked me, where I got discovered for the adult acting. It never occurred to me to go another way. I love performing. I love being on stage. And my opportunity to do that and interact with the audience as well, because I would do these shows where I understand today it's quite different, even in burlesque. I did 4 and 5 song shows.
Right.
My striptease or burlesque act was 4 and 5 songs, themed music. Then I would take a duster, throw it on me, and I'd grab a mic. And I would interact and do questions and answers with the audience. I love being on stage. I'd love to get into theater. I just never thought after doing the adult business.
It's all changed.
Exactly. But back then, I'm talking 80s, early 90s.
Even back then, they were using some of, you had, what's her name, Tracy Lord.
Tracy Lord.
Actually, we had the same agent, and he wanted me to teach her how to act. When she was with the thing, they give us some training how to act. She thought just swallowing it was enough,
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm saying is that they think that's enough, and they're afraid. They're comfortable doing it, and it's another field. But if they want to go there, there's no age limit either for adult actresses to make that transform, because it's there for you. Just you got to get some training, and you're producing a lot of your own stuff. Do it and learn and do something that's beside the cum shot.
Well, see, and that's just it. Nowadays, they don't seem to, at least with the adult entertainment business, they're not. It's so free. First off, it's free half the time on the internet.
Yes,
Secondly,
yeah.
they very seldom do what we call feature films. Now, I used to get to work with Curtis Stevens back in the day. He did all the Taboo series. And I worked with him quite often. I was in Taboo 4, I was in Taboo 5 with him. I worked on Playing with Fire, The Animal in Me. And he actually was the closest director I had where we would sit, rehearse our lines, learn our characters, have wardrobe, change. It wasn't just anything sexy. I did feature films with him. I got to do feature films with Bruce Seven, who's passed
How did you
now.
feel when you watched your work in that and compared to the work of the other work?
The other things are...
I mean, I'm saying, did you see the difference?
Oh, absolutely. I loved having a character.
Okay. That's
In the Taboos, Ginger Lynn and I played sisters. And it was our first time actually working together. And to this day, I was fortunate enough to hook back up with Ginger. I got the opportunity to be on her show, on her radio show. And it's like being with a sister.
Right.
There was a camaraderie and closeness with those of us.
I was just checking the time.
Oh, okay. There was a camaraderie and closeness with us girls back then because we worked on feature films together.
Right.
We practiced lines together. Nowadays, it's so...
Practicing lines. So on that,
rehearsing.
On that, we're going to stop and come back with part 2. Okay, folks?